आ जाए, पहले आ जाएंगे तो आप चेक कर लेंगे तो अच्छा रहेगा।
हाँ 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 हाँ, नहीं चेक तो मेरे को करना ही है।
7 बजे पहले लोग तो नहीं आएंगे कोई।
ठीक है। और एक बार मैं लाइट साउंड सब कुछ एक बार देख लूँ, और स्टेज थोड़ा क्लीन हो जाएगा तो मैं थोड़ा देख भी लूँगी कि स्टेज का स्पेसिंग वगैरह। हाँ, कुछ कुछ वहाँ तैयार होके बाकी सारा टच अप यहाँ पे कर सकती हूँ। हाँ ठीक है। It was actually when I was 17 or 18 when my friends started taking a deeper interest in my dancing, because they started to realize that, okay, she's not just joking around, she actually wants to do this. So my close friends who care about my career and who care about me, they started taking a deeper interest in it, and and one of them asked me, so you're not a ritualistic person, you're not a religious person, but all these pieces that you perform, Shiva, Krishna, Rama, and they're all about gods and goddesses, and so how is it? Aren't you a hypocrite? And I thought about it, and I realized then that I wasn't a hypocrite, only because I had always focused on the emotion aspect of it.
This piece is very dear to me because I perform Bharatanatyam keeping a very strong focus on human emotions, and this piece allows you to convey many of them. So the story is from the Kamban Ramayana. Sita begs and pleads and says, please don't leave me alone here. Take me with you. And Rama tries to scare her by saying that, the forest is a scary place. It's full of tigers and snakes and elephants, and the big pathways are full of thorns, and your beautiful feet will get hurt. You'll be hurt. Don't come. But she cries, and when she cries, his heart melts, and he says, okay, come.
I think from what I see, when I see people behaving like dancers, it's like you're always dressed in a sari, your hair's always tied, you'll always have a bindi, you'll always have your back straight, which are all great things. I mean, like, I love wearing saris, I love wearing bindi, I wear a jura sometimes, and I would like to think that my posture is pretty good most of the time, but I'm not going to beat myself up if I'm slouching once in 100 days or whatever, and I don't see myself as portraying this as an image, because I also have a life outside of the dancing, which I don't see as a life that is separated from the dancing. It's all part of who I am. Like, when I go out with my friends, I'm still that same dancer. Even if I'm wearing jeans and I'm wearing a spaghetti or something, I'm still Aranyani the dancer. I'm just in a different avatar.
Sariga kunku musugutani towadu sahiga chesi nadi kantine. Sariga kunku musugutani towadu sahiga chesi nadi kantine. Sariga
by the time I was leaving school and I'd learned a lot of history and a lot of, you know, your regular NCRT education, somewhere I was trying to find a connection between that history and the history of my dance form. And the only thing that I'd known about it was that it was at one point danced by Devadasis, and nobody ever actually went into what the Devadasis were or who they were and why it's not performed by the Devadasis anymore. And all these questions started coming into my mind by the time I was entering college.
Actually, Tanjore was always a cultural bowl of South India. Even in ancient days during Sangam literature, you find a lot of details about music and dance in this Tamil Nadu. So, and particularly Tanjore, which was the capital of Cholas, there are a lot of temples built by Cholas, and each temple has different sculptures depicting the dance postures. Interesting, Rajaraja's daughter also, it's been recorded that she performed Bharatanatyam in the temple. So her Arangetram took place in the temple. So it was not that just the dancers danced, but the king, her own family himself was attached to it, and they made the performances. King Shahaji, one of my ancestors, and Sarfoji II, they were exponent on this art form. So they supported to a greater extent. So and it's well said by the artisans. So that the present form of Bharatanatyam is a shape given by the Tanjore Quartette. They call Tanjore Quartette. So they call Tanjore Nalvar. So they were the four brothers who were serving in Tanjore Court parallelly with Travancore also. So the Tanjore Nalvar family is still in Tanjore, and their descendants are also there. So they still perform dance, not only on theatres, but they're attached to the temple even today.
This is our traditional house from Tanjore Quartette, 18th century. This is our family tree. This is Mahadevan and Gangai Muthu and Ramalingam. Gangai Muthu have two sons, Subrayan and Chidambaram. The same period. After also, Subrayan have four sons, Chinnaya, Punnaya, Sivananda, Medivel. Tanjore Quartette, they format what today dancing on the stage. Yeah, all over the world. The item, Adavu and Alaripu, Jadiswaram, Sabdam, Padavarnam, Padam, Javali, Tillana, all those items they made it. Ditta, Tei, Tei, Tam, Ditta, tei tei tam takkita tei 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 du tei takkita tei 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 du tei takkita tei 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 du tei.
அந்த காலத்தில் உள்ள சதுர் மாதிரி இப்போ இல்லை. அது யார் அந்த சதுரை வந்து பரதநாட்டியம் மாற்றினாங்கன்னு எங்களுக்கே தெரியாது. இப்போ சொல்கிற கேள்விப்பட்டு தான் பரதநாட்டியம் நானும் சொல்ல ஆரம்பிச்சுட்டேன். சதுர்னு சொன்னால் ஏதோ ஒரு அந்த வார்த்தை வந்து அவங்களுக்கு இஷ்டம் இல்லாத மாதிரி தெரியுது இப்போ எனக்கு. இப்போ முதல்ல வந்து ஆரம்பிக்கும்போது வந்து நெல்லை கொட்டிடுவாங்க, ஒரு மரக்காத நெல். இந்த பக்கம் அந்த கம்பை பிடிச்சிப்பாங்க, பந்தக்கால் மாதிரி. அது மஞ்சள்லாம் பூசிக்கிச்சு. இந்த பக்கம் ஒரு ஸ்டூடெண்ட்டை நிப்பாட்டி வைப்பார், அந்த பக்கம் ஒரு ஸ்டூடெண்ட்டு நடுவில் இப்படி பிடிச்சிக்கிட்டு இந்த கம்பு இப்படி பிடிச்சிருப்பாங்க. நான் இப்படி பிடிச்சிக்கிட்டு தான் ஆரம்பித்தது அந்த காலத்தில். இப்போ அந்த மாதிரி ஆரம்பிக்கிறதே இல்லை. சதை எப்படி மாற்றினாங்களோ அதே மாதிரி சும்மா வர்றாங்க, தையன்னு தட்டிட்டு அது பண்ணிட்டு ஓடுறாங்க. ஏன்னா அவங்களுக்கு படிப்பு ஜாஸ்தியாக இருக்கிறனால அந்த மாதிரி பண்ணுறாங்களோ நம்ம தெரியல. அதுதான் காரணம் ஒன்று சொல்கிறேன்னா. அந்த காலத்தில் வந்து ஒரு வர்ணம் ஆரம்பித்தாங்கன்னா ரொம்ப ஸ்லோ காலமாக இருக்கும். அப்போ அது வந்து சாமியை வர சொல்லடே சகியே குமகர சகமியை வர சொல்லடே.
ரைட்டுக்கு வரும்போது டபுள், லெஃப்ட்டுக்கு வரும்போது சிங்கிள். தக்கிட்ட தக்கிட்ட தெய் தெய் தாம் தத்தை தாக தித்தை தாக தத்தை தாக. Devadasi means, Deva means God. Dasi means devotees. That is, somebody they are making some bad impression. Their families move from somewhere. Not only Tanjore temple, so many temples they having dance.
So none of the traditional families are here anymore.
No.
Dance families, they all gone from here.
Utaka dik taka tadingina tom tadini tadi tajoruta tari tajonu tadi ta di ta tadi ta tadi takata di ta tadi ta takata di ta tadi ta tajoruta kata di ta tadi ta tadi takata di ta.
The traditional dancers were considered those who came from, within quotation, traditional dance families or the Devadasi families, who came from a very specific caste. It was a very caste-based thing. And in the roughly 50-60 years prior to 1920, this dance had in some sense declined because the British refused to acknowledge it as an art form. They thought it was a completely decadent stuff and there should not be any dancing in temples or courts and all that. And all the royal families that patronized this were not given the purse money that the British crown otherwise would give. So the royalty sort of began stepping back on this. And with the result, the Devadasi community slowly, for survival, would convert their dances into slightly more explicit erotic numbers, or some of them would stray into probably prostitution or stuff like that. So the dance was associated with this whole aura of not being all pure and sanctified and stuff like that. So there was this whole movement in the early 20th century for abolition of the Devadasi caste, and it was a very well-educated lady from within that community, Muthu Lakshmi Reddy, who was made the mouthpiece for this, who sort of eventually campaigned against this, brought a bill in parliament, which became a law in 1947, the year India becomes independent. Meaning the Devadasi Abolition Act had happened in 1947, and after that you could not announce yourself as a Devadasi. You were abolished. By law, entire community had been abolished or banned. So it's interesting that Bala Saraswati could continue to dance after 1950, but there were no new Devadasi entrants into the dance field anymore. And as far as I'm concerned, it was a huge loss. As far as Chandra was concerned, it was a huge loss because they were the repositories of music and dance, literally centuries of accumulation. One wonders, where have they gone, One really wonders, this, the children, I mean, Bala Saraswati is one knows, but there were so many other families. So in that sense, you can even call it a national loss.
We are all dancing the idea of India because somewhere we are brand ambassadors of Indian culture. And as long as we are brand ambassadors of Indian culture, we don't have autonomy. We are not really artists. I keep saying this and it disturbs a lot of people that we are not artists because we are carrying the flag of India. And it doesn't work that way. I mean, if you're a dancer, if you're really working from your gut, you get into the dirty area, where you have to ask questions or deal with stuff that is not kosher. So it was very important for us to become moral. It became a national agenda to become moral. I mean, if you see, that generation, like my father was of the moral generation and my grandfather was not. My grandfather was very liberal. I mean, I have stories about him, but my father was such a Puritan, because morality became an agenda. So within that new definition of nation, which had to be moral, Devadasi had no place.
Dance is not something that is autonomous of sexuality issue. So when there is sexual suppression, there is no question of preserving the dance as art form alone. So therefore they were resisting the idea that dance is a pure art form. It is embedded in power relation. So given the fact that non-Brahmin movement in the 1930s gained a huge momentum in Tamil Nadu, dance and the art form got embedded in this debate. And the nationalists came in to counter this whole argument of integrating art form into the politics of abolition. So what they did was they wanted to save the dance as a pure art form and then elevate it to a position of a national art. And in the process, what they did was they clearly branded Devadasis as sexual subjects, and they identified Devadasis as sensual subjects, whereas the art in itself is not sensual. And the art need to be a pure art so that it is able to have a space within the nationalist politics of being an ideal art which is performed by ideal women. So therefore you find that there is a kind of nationalization of art which is linked to Bharatanatyam. And today I think, from my view, Bharatanatyam is where the history of Devadasis' connection is somehow is a kind of an embarrassed history. So therefore it should not be something to be seen as a continuity. So the break is very clearly sort of a willful break, which the Bharatanatyam, the school of Bharatanatyam and the thinkers who belong to this art form have consciously worked that out.
The Ampi history, it is only the war and soldiers history, the king and rulers history. It is not a history of social science. It is not a history of the common people. It is not a history of the living heritage. Every classical traditions and performance and music, everything, it is take a birth from the society. They have no assets, they have no lands, they have no other sources, but they have hold that religious mentality. They are religiously very rich. They are very rich devotees. They can't escape from that religious mentality. But is now the government is prohibited that system. That's why that all system is running, but it is not openly. Before that, it's take a open some diksha like this is there. But nowadays they want to go to the river side and in some rocky sides, and they get some puja and get some diksha and some thali like this. Yes, the system is now also there.
The next piece that I perform is a Padam. This piece is also quite an intense piece. I interpret it to be a piece about untouchability and temple entry prohibition of Dalits. That he comes to the temple after hearing the bell, the temple bells, and just to see a little bit of Shiva. But there are so many people ahead of him, which to me also implies that he was obviously not allowed close enough to the temple deity. All I saw was one ruby earring, and even that intoxicated me. This is a Padam, Muhatai Katiya Deham. Mugat
Body, which means body's energies and body's dynamics, body's mechanics.
The physicality of the body, which is the material of the body, which means everything, the bones, the skeleton, the muscles, the fluids, the mind, the breath, the sensuality.
Without knowing the sources of movement, the sources of energy of any movement. So if you're putting your hand out, is the movement starting from here? Is it starting from the elbow? Is it starting from the shoulder? Where is the movement starting from? Where are you drawing your energy from? If that question is not already posed to a dance student, the students begin to get very mechanical. The teacher has said, put your hand out, so you put your hand out. But there's no sense of where that energy for that movement is coming from, where, which part of your body do you connect it from? Is the hand just a separate thing, appendage, or is it connected to the rest of the body? If it is connected, then where is that, energy connecting?
When you energize the spine, and when you energize the spine, it doesn't mean that it's a flexible spine. It's a spine that is awakened, that is, that's sensually awake, that is energetically awake. And it has a very refined connection with breath. Like breath and spine and mind are all the same. It's this different, they're in different dimensions. One is mental, one is physical, one is breath, but it's exactly the same thing. So a spine that's awakened with breath and it's attuned with breath is awake. And when you see a dancer with an awake spine, you say, wow, it's automatically, it's visible.
The energy that you get out of dance, if you can transfer it, is it possible? Is it transferable? Can you make those feelings in your spectators, in the viewer? And after many years of search and work, I feel that it is possible to transfer those energies. If you can make them participate in whatever you are saying, whatever you are expressing, whatever you are doing, by connecting it to them, by provoking them, by bringing them closer to their own bodies, that you are able to connect to people and make them conscious of their own bodies, their own breath, their own energies. And if you can have this kind of a generation of energy, then to me, that is the real meaning, that you can generate energy from your body.
to have an awakened spine and to have that energy, you have to be sensually awake and available and alert and to be, unbashful about it. And I think this is what a Devadasi is. And they don't have any shame about, they don't have any modesty. Not that they are shameless, they are very modest. But the internal makeup is ki yes, theek hai yaar, sensuality is okay. The message that they have received is sensuality is all right. It's perfectly all right. It's not something to be coy about. But what we have done in the modern world is we have coyed it, we have coquettishized it. And it becomes grotesque, it becomes ugly, it becomes cosmetic, as Chandra used to call it. Because it is twisted. We can't contain sensuality in its beauty, in its fullness, in its directness. So we have to take indirect ways to express it. And that's what becomes problematic. Because dance, Bharatanatyam to me is tailor-made to express this desire, to express this sensuality directly, in the simplest, direct manner. The Padams just make you do that.
I did always think that at some point of time, I will try and see what this mystery was. Yeah, and then when I found out, of course, my whole way of dancing changed. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not even sure if it was an outward change so much, but inwardly the way I look at dance, and that's what's more important to me really. Inwardly, the way I look at dance, the way I look at the dance form, the way I look at the dancers today, everything kind of went for a toss. Yeah, in my mind.
Sahi ka jesi nati kantile